What's up, everybody? It's Habibi at Habibi Motorsports, and today we have a badass Lotus Evora. We already tuned this car. This car has long tube headers, I believe a 4-inch intake, exhaust system, and high flow cats. We did tune this car last time it was here, and it made 494. So customer was really happy with it. It picked up, let's take a look here. Picked up quite a bit of power. So when it came in, it made 433. When it left, it made 494. No hard parts. That's literally just tuning. The car was being remote tuned. We are tuning it on VF Tuner software, so really happy with that software. Works really well. Got it working precisely how we want it to. Today we're doing some testing on the Supercharger lid. So we're doing two different brands. One of them is VF Tuner Supercharger lid. We just ran it on the stock one, so let me clear that out. All right, so we are within 7 horsepower since the last time we tuned this car. Today, what we're gonna do, we're gonna swap lids, and then we're gonna run it, see where the air fuel ratio is, make some tuning modifications if need be, and verify air fuel ratios where we want it to be. Of course, run it, do a comparison stock Supercharger lid to the other brands. We're doing 2 Supercharger lids today. And we're going to see how much improvement and which RPM range the improvements are in, and then how much of the tuning has to be changed in order to accommodate for those supercharger lids. So today we're really excited to see what this thing's going to do, man. We just ran the baseline. Hopefully you guys saw that video. This thing sounds mean. It's my favorite sounding Lotus of all time. This thing just, I don't know what it is, man. I've heard other V6 Lotuses and with exhaust and whatnot, but this thing just has that touch, man. But yeah, stay tuned.
A few moments later.
See you, ladies and gentlemen. I do work on cars. Step 1, remove trunk. Make your life easier. Step 2. Remove supercharger lid bolts. And just like that, it's out.
What lid you got there?
This one is the Jokerz Performance Supercharger lid. So we're gonna do a comparison side by side with the OEM one. It's got these nice channels here to direct airflow to where you need it to. It is slightly larger volume than the OEM lid. Let's grab the OEM one. Now we have all 3 Supercharger lids side by side. You got the OEM one, Jokerz Performance, and the VF Tuner one. Obviously the VF Tuner one is the largest one. Let's do a quick overview of what we see as differences. So the OEM one, you know, standard, it's cast aluminum, and it looks like it has the old Japanese flag on the inside of it. And let's take a look at the Jokerz Performance one. So the Jokerz Performance one actually has some airflow channels to direct the airflow to the inlet of the supercharger, which I think is a really nice feature. And it is definitely a larger volume lid, so you got more air volume going into the supercharger, causing less of an airflow restriction. And let's do a comparison of the VF Tuner one It is definitely the heaviest one I've ever picked up. Holy sh! As you guys can see, it is significantly bigger than all the other ones. It's also quite a bit heavier too. I mean, I say quite a bit, but it's more like 4 or 5 pounds. But on this little piece, I think that's quite a bit, honestly. It also has these a lot more airflow fins to direct airflow to the supercharger inlet. So I'm curious to see what the difference is on the dyno. So we just ran the car in the stock supercharger lid. Now we're going to try the Jokerz, and then finally we're going to try this one. We're going to do a comparison on all of them to see which one the car likes best or makes best power with, and go from there. So yeah, let us know what you guys think. Okay. Alignment pin is a little tight in this corner. A little left tap will get it to seat. All right. And now, by the way, Jokerz gives you this nice hardware kit that goes with their lid. So does VF. I'm trying to be neutral here. I'm not going to be biased towards either brand. So we're going to let the results speak for themselves, so that way we're not picking one brand over another and we have, you know, people hating us. We work with both brands very well. We work with Jokerz quite a bit. We work with VF Tuner quite a bit. So both are excellent brands. This is more or less to see what the differences are in between the two. And performance-wise, installation, I don't think is going to be a whole lot different. This one obviously looks pretty straightforward. Looks like something anybody can do at home with basic tools. Now, the reason the trunk lid is out of the way, or the engine cover, is because the customer had put the VF tuner lid on at home, and he had stripped out these bolts back here, and with that lid sticking so much higher, like it literally comes up to about here, so it was almost impossible to do it with the trunk lid on the car. So what I did, I just took it off, extracted those bolts and cleaned up the threads, and now we put the stock lid back on, baseline the car, and now we are going to baseline it again and data log it with the Jokerz, and then after the Jokerz one, we'll be switching again to the VF tuner to see what the results are. So hint, guys, try to do these in a crisscross pattern. All right, once you verify all of them are tight, we recommend going over them with a torque wrench. So now I know you guys are thinking, oh, this guy's using power tools. No, this thing is so light, like I can literally stop this with my hand. So it's very low torque. It's probably set to like 5 foot-pounds. Most importantly, do not forget these 2 bolts, which the Jokerz one uses like the OEM one. The VF tuner one does not need these bolts. So all right, ladies and gentlemen, we got this lid back on, or on, I should say. And it's got this nice little app package, you know what I mean? This thing works out. Let's see what it's gonna do. Let's baseline this thing, look at the data log, see what the dyno says. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we got the Jokerz lid on the car. We just ran it real quick. It did make an improvement. So the car picked up a little bit on the down low. Let's take a look as far as torque. It went from 302 to 318 foot-pounds, so about 16 foot-pounds of torque gain, right around the mid 3,000 RPM region. And up top, overall, we made 488 horsepower on the stock lid, 502. So what is that? About 14 horsepower, about the same torque, 399 versus 401. So it's peak to peak. I don't care about that. I'm trying to see where I'm picking up in certain spots. Now these right here, just little dip in power and torque, that's just torque management. It does close the throttle about 5 to 8% in this region. So I'm not trying to change the calibration file or the tune file right now, because I want to do a head-to-head comparison without adding any other variables into the equation. So just by slapping the supercharger lid on, the car did pick up, like I said, about 14 horsepower, especially up top, especially like if you're a road racer and you're always in that high RPM region, this is great improvement. So it will help your lap time and overall performance. Down here, this is when you're very low RPM getting out of a corner. So again, every little bit helps. Yeah, I mean, this is doing about what I expect it to do. It's tracing about exactly where the stock lid is, except down in the 2800 to about 4100 RPM region, and then everything above 6500, which is where the stock one chokes out, and that comes from the larger diameter lid, so you have more air volume to feed into the supercharger. With that being said, this makes me really curious to see what the VF tuner is going to do, since it's so much larger in volume. I'm curious to see if it's going to make a difference across the board, only in certain regions, or mainly just the high RPM. And then we're going to see whichever one's going to give us the largest improvement. That's the one we're going to refine the tune on the car with. So yeah, go from there. Just be gentle with it. That's right. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Trying to be nice to it. Here we go. All right. And it's off. Time for the VF tuner one. Make sure your gasket's lined up. Make sure you have a strong back, because when you lean that far with this 5 million pounds of goodness. All right. Look at that. It lands right on the alignment pins. No problem. Has a little bit of wiggle room. Not a big deal. Now, VF does supply you with their own hardware, like these guys. So we'll be using them. Fun part begins. As you can see, this sits quite a bit higher than all the other ones. So, and the other thing is it doesn't have these two bolts that go in the middle, like the OEM one and the Jokerz Performance. So we will need, I believe this is a 4mm. Yes, it is. Never start the bolts with a power tool. I'm a professional, I know what I'm doing. Definitely don't do it with the back ones. I'm actually gonna start those by hand, just because I don't want issues.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
we just ran the VF tuner. It made 488, which is the same power as the stock lid at peak. However, in the low end, it's better all the way up to about 5,200 RPM. So it's significantly more than stock. So, for example, at 2,400 RPM, the stock Supercharger lid made 304 foot-pounds of torque. The Jokerz made 315, and the VF tuner made 333 foot-pounds of torque. And it is an improvement all the way up to about 5,300, and then they all line back up. Now, the VF tuner did make the same power as the stock lid, but reviewing the data log, this is why data logging is so important. And it did have more throttle closure up top versus the other two data logs. So I am going to have to work on the torque management side of things to see if I can get that throttle to at least mimic the throttle closure of the other ones, or hopefully we can get it to completely not close the throttle up top. And peak throttle on these is about 77%. Now it did, let's see here, which data log? This is for the Jokerz. It does close it down to about 60 and then opens it back up. Now on this lid, the VF tuner holds it at 77%, and then it drops it down to 63, and then just kind of hovers in the 60s and never goes back to a wide open throttle. So I'm going to see if there's something in the tune or if it's an airflow related situation to see if we can amend that throttle closure so we can have a more valid, accurate comparison. So in my opinion, again, this is purely my opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of gurus out there that will argue differently. I do believe the VF tuner will make more power just because it has a much larger volume chamber of air that the supercharger can feed off of, which is less of a restriction. So, and it has those fens or valleys in the supercharger lid to direct the airflow directly to the supercharger opening. So that's not to say anything bad about the Jokerz. The Jokerz one is outstanding. It's a really nice piece. They're actually both really nice. So they're both billet. So I'm trying to, again, have a as close of a comparison as I can, like an apples to apples type deal, and trying to eliminate as many variables as I can. Right now our new variable is the throttle body. What I'm going to do is probably run the car one more time to see if it won't close the throttle body. If it doesn't, great. We'll have a better comparison that way. But if it does, I might go in and do some changes to the calibration or the tune, and to see if we can get it to hold that throttle. All right, guys, that's all I got to say for now. Stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so went over the tune, made some adjustments to the, the torque request, and hopefully that'll keep the throttle body open up top. And I think it's because, this is purely my opinion, I think it's seeing more airflow go through the engine, because these cars have a mass airflow. And since it's seeing more airflow, it thinks, well, it doesn't think, it actually knows that it's making more torque. So it uses the throttle body to control that torque as torque management to bring the airflow back down, because based on your airflow you can calculate roughly how much torque you're making. And we just requested more torque, flash that file on, and we're gonna run it again, see what it does. I think we're stuck at that 508.
Still there?
Yeah, let me check.
Looks really smooth at the top though.
Yep.
Looks really good.
Yeah, car will make more than 508, but it is so much smoother across the entire RPM range. It only closed the throttle body by 4% that time.
Oh, that's
so,
not bad.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's holding everything that it needs to, air fuel ratio, timing, exactly the way I want it. So, well, that's fantastic. All right, everyone, we are back for some final tech questions on the Lotus Evora supercharged model, and some people had some questions on the forum, and today we wanted to answer as many of those questions as we can. So we tuned this car, I want to say back in November 25th of 2025. The car made 494.6 wheel horsepower and 388 foot-pounds of torque. Now the car did leave. Customer had some additional changes done. He put a different intake on the car. I believe he went from an aluminum to a titanium. I could be wrong on that part, but I did know that it was changed after I finished tuning the car. So we wanted to do some testing on the different supercharger lids. We tried out the stock one, the Jokerz Performance, and the VF Tuner supercharger lid to see what kind of improvements those would make to the car. So what I did is, in order for us to eliminate as many variables as we can, instead of just using the dyno run from back in November and say, hey, that's our baseline. Well, what I actually did is, the customer came in with the supercharger lid already changed out, so we put the stock one back on it. I was like, I wanted to baseline it today. I wanted everything to be as consistent as possible, so that way we can eliminate as many variables out of the equation as we can. So we put the stock supercharger lid back on, we ran the car, and again, this is me not knowing he had changed out the intake. So the car went from 495, we'll call it 495 wheel horse, to 488 as of a few days ago, which was February 20th of 2026. So not a huge difference, but it did make a difference. And as you can notice, this little torque dip right here, and that's from the intake. I didn't know that that was a change until after I tuned the car. Now I do correct for this in the tune to make up for it. And some of you are asking, hey, why is there a torque dip from a simple intake change? Well, what that does, those ECUs are airflow and torque management based. So anytime you change airflow, it will change the torque calculation, and it can think it's making more torque, less torque, whatever's happening in that scenario, and it will adjust the throttle plate based on that calculation, and it will try to manage torque in that aspect. So you can see the previous time, it has a very small gradual dip here. It's not enough for me to be concerned about it. It was only a couple of percent throttle closure from going back and looking at the data log. The car did flow quite a bit of airflow, looking at the mass airflow sensor data. So when we ran it, again, trying to take the variables out, it did have this torque dip. So what I wanted to do is not do any tuning, simply just change supercharger lids and see where that puts us. So again, the car went from 495 to 488. So then what we did is we did swap the supercharger lids. You want me to wait till the compressor's off? All right, here we go. So back on track, let's go ahead and eliminate the dyno run from the last time. So I did create a new folder for this. So whenever we put the Jokerz Performance lid on, As you can see, there's a little bit of a torque improvement right there between roughly about 2,900 till about 4,200. And you can see the torque dip is there as well, so it does match. This is no tuning changes, simply just swapping the lid. And again, that was me trying to take out as many variables as I can. So the Jokerz lid did make more power up top. That's because it kept the torque more manageable up top. So we went from 488 to 502. And this is the same amount of cool down time from putting the car on the dyno, swapping the lid. So what I did is, when I put the stock lid on, we did it off the dyno. I kind of timed myself roughly as to how long that would take. And once we strapped the car on the dyno, we gave it about that same amount of cool down time for swapping each lids. Again, trying to take out as many variables as I can. And also me monitoring the intake air temp, coolant temp, and as many temperatures as I could see in the logger to, again, try to get consistent results. So similar torque dip. However, it did make more power up top, and what is that? Roughly 14 horsepower, if I'm doing the math in my head real quick. So seems about right. So next, we take the supercharger lid off from Jokerz. We put the VF tuner on. Let's take a look, and the VF tuner one right there. It does have quite a bit of improvement over the RPM range. Let's take the Jokerz one off of the graph, just so we have a fair comparison. It's quite a bit of improvement in the torque range. Again, this is zero tuning. This is just a matter of swapping the supercharger lid on the car. So, and our improvement starts from, we'll call it 2,900 RPM until about 5,100 RPM roughly. We do have a smaller torque dip here and then a torque spike right there, but they all kind of have that little spike right there. So yeah, I would say this is about as fair of a comparison as I could make it. Again, I'm not trying to be biased. I'm trying to simply provide data. Both supercharger lids perform great, the Jokerz and the VF tuner, and I'm sure there's other brands out there that we're not aware of. We just didn't test in this series of videos. So let's do a comparison of the two side by side. So the Jokerz and the VF tuner, they're pretty close to each other. Again, is this something you're really gonna notice a massive difference in driving and power? Probably not. Most people, you know, I mean, I don't think you're going to notice 2 horsepower and 3 foot-pounds of torque. That's at peak to peak. Now, in the mid-range, it is, again, a tiny bit. I don't think it's something that you're going to notice a huge difference going from one brand to the other. Now, going from stock to the other ones, there might be a little bit of better improvement just because sometimes it's 20 to 25 foot-pounds of torque, depending on which RPM region you're in. So yeah, I do think one performs slightly better. So what we did is we kept the VF tuner on the car because we got the largest power band or torque band improvement over the other one. And you know, we had discussed this with Cedric, the owner of the car. We had talked about, hey, whichever one's going to give us the best improvement, that's the one we're going to keep on the car and tune it. So now we did do some more tuning, and we went from 504 to 510, I believe is the final result. Again, 6 horsepower gain, not a massive jump, but we did clean this torque up a little bit up top, so it is quite a bit cleaner graph. Let's see, I believe this was it. Yep, 510 compared to the stock one. So yes, it's quite a bit higher. I mean, going from 488 to a 510 wheel horsepower car, it's quite the jump. This is in a matter of probably, I'd say, an hour, hour and a half difference between all those different runs. So there wasn't like a massive cool down period between them or anything like that. So, and what we did is, you know, we did play with the torque tables and the airflow table to, again, clean this torque dip up. So we got a little bit of cleaner graph up top. And here we did get, I believe, a 1 or 2 degree knock event. That's why that torque drops off there. But we did end up cleaning that up on a quick road test to verify everything is fine. Now, the only variable I had no control over is the octane that the customer was using when he brought me the car. I mean, they are months apart, so I wouldn't expect the fuel to be exactly the same. But it is definitely, I did notice a couple more knock events on when I tuned it with the different supercharger lids, which was February 20th. So again, that's a variable that, you know, neither the owner of the car or myself could control unless we used race fuel, which is not realistic because I don't think everyone with those cars is using race gas. The other thing that people were asking about were the VVT, the intake and exhaust cam positions. I don't remember where those are. I adjusted those last time for optimization on the dyno. We did get a significant improvement out of them. So I left those alone this go around. The intake air temperature did drop by a few degrees going from the stock supercharger lid to the other ones. So that generally means there's less restrictions, smoother and quicker airflow. The mass airflow reading did jump. VF Tuner doesn't really give me a scale, but I believe it's in grams per second, like a typical mass airflow reading. I think we went from 390 something grams per second to a final number when it's all said and done. I believe it was 433 grams per second. All dyno pulls were done in 4th gear on a Dynojet 424. It is LC, which is linked. We did not use the link system, so we only ran it on the real roller. I'm trying to think if there's any other variables. I think that's it, guys. Yeah, the biggest thing was the T6 ECU. It's just airflow and torque management based. So whenever you change airflow, it will change torque calculation. So you do have to have a calibration or a tune to accommodate for it to make sure the ECU is happy and it's calculating things properly in the background so it can give you the proper throttle opening and proper torque management. I think that's it. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them down in the comments. We'll do our best to reply to everybody. Maybe we'll make another segment of this video. The other thing I did forget to mention, the throttle closure. So here it was going from, I believe a max opening of these throttle bodies is what's considered 77%. Here it was dropping down to, I want to say 62%, 60 to 62%. I'm trying to think of the data log off the top of my head. Here in this region, after I did the revision and the final revision, I think it was dropping from 77 down to 75 at most, so only dropping 2%. Not enough for me to honestly see it as a concern of any sort, so I don't think you're ever going to notice that, and the cleaner dyno graph shows it to prove it. And this is repetitive, so it's doing it consistently back to back. Again, your questions, please put them down in the comments. We'll do our best to reply to them. If not, maybe we'll just make a third video to talk about the Lotus Evora platform as much as we can. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate your support. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share. Send this to your friends, your cousins, your grandma. I don't care. Send it to everybody.